The topic I had was employee handbooks. The article I found was from the National Labor Relations Board versus a Chicagoland BMW dealership. A disgruntled employee posted a couple things on his Facebook page, which then got back to the owners of the dealership, resulting in this guy's firing. What happened was, first there was a sales event and the employee thought that hot dogs were not a good enough food item for customers who were going to be spending thousands of dollars on BMWs. The second incident, which was the sole reason the employee claims that the guy was fired, was that next door to dealership owned by the same company, a 13-year-old ran a truck into a pond, and luckily no one was injured, but the employee kind of made a joke and passed it off as a laughing matter. What the issues that were brought up in this lawsuit were first the just Facebook, just what he actually commented on, what he actually posted, the actual material. The second issue was the way the handbook was written. This incident occurred last year in 2011, but the handbook at the start of the lawsuit hadn't been updated since 2003. The handbook part of the lawsuit was that it was unconstitutional because it had 4 provisions that prevented employees from participating in protected concert activity. The titles were called Bad Attitude, where you couldn't be grumpy or show disrespect or have a bad day, basically. There was another one where Courtesy, where you can't use bad language or be any way disrespectful to the company, but that's really vague and broad, and different people can interpret that different ways. The other section was unauthorized interviews about employees, so they were saying that you couldn't talk about another employee. And the fourth thing that was brought up against the case was considered outside inquiries, and that's where employees couldn't talk to anyone without sending them first to human relations. So it was very compartmentalized and basically trying to keep the employees hush-hush and quiet. What happened was the lawsuit went before a trial judge, and the judge said that the posting about the sales event was protected under the National Labor Relations Board Act, and so he couldn't be fired or held against him for doing that. But because he acted solely regarding the accident, and that potentially could have been a dangerous, deadly situation, and he, posted it kind of jokingly, it was okay for the employer, the dealership, to fire this guy. How this relates to food service management is that, there are always rumors, there's always BSing going on in the kitchen. There's a constant overturn or turnover rate in restaurants, so people are constantly going in and out. There are questions about current employees, former employees, things get around, and there are also lots of customers, so trying not to have a bad attitude or have a bad day, when you're dealing with all these people, is almost impossible. Same with unauthorized interviews. People are always asking questions. You're in a hotel, you're in a restaurant, there's got to be some leniency for when you're just talking in a conversation. You can't be all hush hush and be closed and a brick wall when you're in the service industry. So, my take-home message for this was to keep an updated handbook, because this probably wouldn't have been an issue if they would have had a clause in there talking about Facebook, Twitter, or social media, where it warned employees to be conscientious about what they're putting up, and telling them not to do anything that could be potentially harmful to the dealership. The other thing is that as an employer, you should have a disclaimer or an add-in clause where as things change, issues come up, you're allowed to add or make amendments and not be stated as is, like in this case they were trying to claim. The final thing for the employees, I would say, would be to just think really hard before posting something on the internet, because it could get to Timbuktu. You don't know who's going to see it and what would happen, what the fallout could be. So just be very careful. So, this guy ended up being fired for legitimate reasons, but the one thing that did change was that the dealership had to update its Facebook, or update its handbook, to include more about social media and to allow more leeway for the employees to talk amongst themselves and to the public. So that's that. Hope you enjoy the article and have fun.